Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for my book review. This time it is my pleasure to talk about this book, which is How to Change Your Mind, What the New Science of Psychedelics Teaches Us About Consciousness, Dying, Addiction, Depression, and Transcendence. It is by Michael Pollan, and this book has won the 10 best books of 2018, and it is also a New York Times bestseller. It's from 2018. It has 414 pages. It, goes up and down as far as how fast the read is. There is a lot of history behind LSD, how it came about, also magic mushrooms, and during that time, it's more scientific and historical. The parts that I really enjoyed were when the author speaks about his own experiences with the psychedelics, and it's very interesting how the book is also broken into different categories. The author explores the options of the effects of psychedelics on cancer patients, on people with addiction, with depression, anxiety. And he does a great job of validating his points from a scientific perspective and from a holistic perspective. So I learned a lot of stuff from this book. I don't know if I will ever take these drugs, most likely not. But what I have learned from this book is that when he was on these drugs, he was told that he should embrace the fear that the hallucinations cause and whatnot. And so that was a good life lesson, where it's good to face your fears versus trying to run from them. And so that was a good life lesson that I learned. Also, there are a lot of things about human beings and our thought processes. One thing that I found extremely interesting was that the effect of psychedelics, such as LSD, magic mushrooms, has on your brain is very similar to that of when a person does meditation. So the brain activity is somewhat the same as when you're on these drugs versus if you're meditating. So that I found very interesting. And the effects of the drugs, are similar to those who are meditating. So the moral of the story basically is that these drugs currently are illegal and that they should be legalized, because if used in the right way, they can help people. And the author does a great job of, sharing why he thinks so. And it's persuasive, because initially when LSD was introduced to, to the general public, it was not illegal, and a lot of people used it for medical purposes, and it did help. But then it was taken out of control. It went out of control, and people started abusing it, and that's when it got illegal and that substance got banned. So if used under the right guidance, under medical supervision, it actually can help. Cancer patients in particular, are dealing with the whole concept of death and knowing that, their life is very short, and the difficulties that go along with these terminally ill patients. And so when patients are put on these psychedelics, they have an experience, a psychedelic spiritual experience, and results have shown that the outcome is good. So all in all, this book is a good read. It becomes heavy when, you know, the author is explaining about the history of the drugs and whatnot, but then his own anecdotes, his own experiences that he talks about are extremely enlightening. They are, you know, you really can understand what is going on. He does a great job of describing his experience. Also, one thing that I have learned is that, you know, when he describes when he's on this drug, that there are moments of fear. And so the best way to handle is to embrace the fear instead of running away from it. And that only makes you stronger. So that was a good lesson that I learned from this book, that instead of, you know, when you're faced with a difficult situation or being uncomfortable, what's best is to ask more questions and not run away from them, but to face your fear and question it. So that I found very interesting. And another thing that I found interesting is that, you know, about meditation, that how the brain is very similar, you know, when one is on psychedelics and meditating, the brain activity is very similar. So you can achieve the same effect from both things. So it is a very interesting book. And it is also very interesting how the consciousness can be tapped into through, you know, these drugs, and then how you translate it. So I say it is a great book club book to discuss and see, you know, what people's views are on this book. But overall, it's a great book, and you do learn a lot from this book. It's an eye-opener. It's a touchy topic because psychedelics always have this stigma attached to them. And this is the first time that I have read a book that, you know, uses drugs in a positive way and talks about drugs in a positive way and how it would be a good idea to legalize psychedelic drugs. So under the right guidance. So it was a good book. I would recommend it if that is what you're looking for. If, you know, you want more information on the effects of drugs and, you know, how it is a good thing versus being abused. So give it a shot. This was my experience on this book, and I recommend it. It was a good read. So thank you so much for listening to me all this time. I'm almost close to 10 minutes, and I hope I didn't bore you, but the topic is, you know, interesting. It's not super easy. It is a read that you have to focus on. But thank you so much for listening. And if you have any comments, concerns, please write a comment or DM me. And I would love to converse with you. And thanks again. And until next time, peace and love.